If we're talking about the oatmeal that is the color palette of this film stock, this would be like the oatmeal with dino eggs. It serves the purpose of film that you can shoot, for sure. But there's, I think, just better film stocks out there. Surprise, surprise to probably nobody. Ilford color is made by Invisotech, same company that does lomography, Metropolis, and then also the Wolfen NC400, NC500 film. It's the same thing. I was going to do a video comparing Ilford color and NC400 because I just got a roll of that as well. I just got the results back from Ilford color and I don't need to do that. It's literally identical. So we're going to go through it real quick. Hopefully unearth some of the vintage tones that we heard so much about according to the package, and talk about the film photography landscape more broadly. This isn't like a bad thing necessarily. They've been doing this for a while with their Ilford color disposable cameras. Now they're just selling the film, and it's not like that expensive, but it is a little gimmicky. And I think it's a little bit misleading when they're like, vintage tones. And it's like, yeah, it's just muted. Like, it's just, there's nothing, it's not bad film. I don't dislike this look. I don't look at this and be like, wow, was this taken in the 80s? Was this taken in the 60s? I guess it does kind of have that like 80s brown to it. First couple of pictures I took down in Brookings. It's at the old family cabin here. And this definitely is not the film for natural landscapes or anything like that. I had the same issue a few years ago when I was shooting lomography Metropolis. Lack of definition in some of the images was astonishing. So also from that experience, there's not a whole lot of like latitude with the editing. Like you can't really correct for too much. Now, I don't get the high resolution scans, and I don't know exactly what scanner the lab I uses, so there's probably a way to get better images. I don't know what that is, and quite frankly I kind of continue to err on the side of the stars shouldn't all align for your images to look good. Different results if you use different scanners, all this stuff. But if you're shooting like Kodak Gold or Ilford HP5 or whatever, like just generic stock of film, Ultramax, the results you get are going to be the results you get. And yeah, you can make minor tweaks here and there. By and large, that's what you're going to get. Versus with like the Harman Phoenix, which yes is a little bit more experimental, or maybe something like this. So you have to jump through all these different hoops and do all these different rituals, and then maybe you'll get a quality image. And I just don't think that that's the fairest thing in the world. But these aren't bad. They're not terrible. This one I got of my cousin, I think looks pretty cool. I'm shooting this with the f3, just the 50-1.8 lens. Looks good. Decent separation from the subject to the background. Nothing's like too blown out, which is nice. There's detail back there. The color, like I said, is kind of muted, but I think that kind of benefits it because this is could be a high contrast image. The shadows that he's standing in are significantly darker than the backdrop there. This is kind of an interesting one. I kind of shot this one in the hope that I could see the dynamic range of the film. So you can see like the building here is like well exposed, and then the street down here, the shadows are a little bit darker. I would say it holds on to the details well enough. There's nothing like too outstanding about this image. It's not like a great composition, but I just thought being able to see the differences between what it does in the highlights versus what it does in the lowlights, I think it performs pretty adequately. F3 I think is like a cumulative meter, so it takes like the average of everything that you're seeing and produces what it thinks is thereabouts a good exposure. I think it did pretty well here. These next few frames are from a photo walk that I did with a buddy of mine, and that video is going to be on the other channel, the Bronco Best Show channel. So I'll link that right here, link that down below as well. So if you haven't gone over there to subscribe, definitely feel free to do that. I took this one because the roses, Portland obviously city of roses, but I was also thinking that punchy red look of the light hitting the roses, surely that will pop on the vintage tone film. And it does to a degree. It doesn't dazzle me too much. It definitely jumps out. I think the backdrop being darker green definitely helps add to that color contrast. It's the same thing with the Orwo film. It's all the same film, but like there's not punchy vibrancies. It's just everything's kind of like, and then there's a little blip of color, if that makes sense. Everything just feels kind of like gruel. And then, oh look, like a hint of like... It's like oatmeal, visual oatmeal. But like, I like oatmeal, so it's not like I'm not dogging on it too much, but it's just like oatmeal, and then there's like the little bite of sugar that you put in the oatmeal. It's like you don't put too much sugar in. It's just like a little teaspoon, half teaspoon, like little drop of brown sugar, and it like clumped together, and that's what this is. Ooh, color. Ooh, now the color. That's what all these film stocks look like. Nothing wrong with that. I like it. I don't dislike it that much. I like kind of the flatness to it. I wish they wouldn't have called it vintage tones though, or like whatever. That's just so gimmicky. And anyway, we'll get back to that. I thought was particularly interesting because the sky is brown. Just straight up brown. It wasn't brown that day. We do get quite a few fires and stuff here, but it was a pretty clear blue day, as you can see in the video, but it definitely doesn't appear that way. And then there's this really interesting little artifacting that's going on in the upper left corner. And I don't really know what that is. Could it be a UFO? Sure. Yes. I found out there was a UFO on the Ilford color film. That's the story. Could it be the vintage tones really trying to pop through? Maybe. I'm very pleased with how this one turned out actually, because it was so contrasty through here. The white barricades were reflecting so much light, and then obviously with the trees and stuff shading the buildings, it was like a 4-to-1 ratio or like something insane like that. So the fact that it was able to kind of pick up some detail still, I'm pretty pleased with. It's not the best composed shot of all time. Again, none of these photos really are. I'm not the best photographer ever. It's just taking photos, testing the film and stuff like that. But overall, I think it performed pretty adequately. There's a lot of detail in the tree bark here. I think it pulled a lot of resolution from the whites. Like it didn't completely blow that out, which was cool. And even in the backdrop here, it's like definitely fades off quite a bit. The shadows are pretty lost in some areas, but it doesn't feel like this vacuous void. There's still presence there. You can still see little reflections off the windows and stuff like that, and there is detail there. Obviously it's not as important. That's not like the subject of the image necessarily, but it's not completely lost in a way that is noticeable. Highlight a little bit more because of two things. One, I thought it was kind of funny seeing like this Lexus that was kind of thrashed and then a nice flower bucket. Two, I think my finger or something is in the bottom of the frame there, which is classic, adding foreground for depth. And then three, I think this is what I was expecting with the colors. The reds in the flower here are like really popping in a way that I think is nice. If we're talking about the oatmeal that is the color palette of this film stock, this would be like the oatmeal with dino eggs. You know, if you ever had that. I never really had that as a kid. My buddy did. We were on a backpacking trip and he had a dino egg oatmeal, and basically put it in a bowl, pour water into it, and there was like these little eggs, and then they would like crack or like they would dissolve, and there'd be like a little sugar dino thing. It was like the coolest thing ever. And that's kind of what this shot looks like to me. This little flower pot's a bunch of dino eggs in your oatmeal. So that's fun. I think it looks good. Not the best composed image, but like when I'm thinking vintage tones or whatever the f that means, you know what, like vintage tones reminds me of the corporatized jargon that I used to get emails about. Optimize, link in, and grow. At a loss for like corporatized jargon, but the idea is like you are using words but saying very little, and it's almost like this other extension pack of the English language that only really works in that space. Because if you were trying to talk to somebody at a family reunion in the way that you would speak to your coworkers, they would enlist you in a psych ward or something. Like they would be like, what are you talking about? Like, just say human words. But it's become a thing in the corporate world to just like use filler words to sound like I'm doing something, my job is important. The vintage tones and vibes and all that stuff in my mind is like film photography jargon. It is vacuous of meaning. It's just, if I say this word, people will think I'm doing something cool and then they'll buy it. It's nothing. This means nothing. Vintage, what? Explain that to me. How is this supposed to make me feel like, wow, this was taken in the 80s or whatever? And why do we want things to look like they were taken in the 80s? Like, I don't know, man. Bring back Kodachrome. Kodachrome was cool. Kodachrome had like these intense, deep, rich colors. This looks like slop. Like I said, this is just oatmeal imagery with I'm over here praising it because the reds pop a little bit and calling it Dino Eggs oatmeal. Like that is the lengths to which I've gone to try to rationalize this purchase and rationalize this film stock. These images in here, this is going to be, I think these are like the last ones of the roll. That's a lie. But we're going to highlight, this is going to be the last one we kind of talk about. This one I took right little dining room space, which I'm very proud of. I did a little fall setup. There's a few things here. One, the composition sucks. Two, the lighting sucks. There's a lot more light coming in through the window. It's very backlit. But that being said, the richness of the colors here, I think, really serve themselves nicely. When I said previously that this film doesn't like serve itself well in a natural environment, I'm thinking that this might just not be a good film for like outdoor photography. Like this would be a studio film where you can control the lighting situations and you can control colors a little bit more. I think that's the best way to utilize the film, and that's going to be like a very niche group of people. Based on the sample images versus what I got, like I don't know, it could have been me, I should have maybe shot at a different speed and not the box speed. I should have used a different scanner, higher resolution scan, or like any of these factors. Sure, I probably could have made adjustments there. I'm thinking that if you're going to sell a film and just be like, yeah, you can just use this film, however, you should be able to use it, however, and get good results. And again, these aren't bad results by any stretch of the imagination. I'm actually quite pleased with how the roll turned out. Would I buy another roll? Probably not. It's not bad. I just think it's a bit of a misnomer. It just feels like we're selling into this hype of the vintage aesthetic that people like. Go thrifting, get a cool old outfit, and then shoot this cool old film that we just came out with. Feels a little bit exploitative, as do a lot of things in the film photography landscape right now. There's definitely some good results. It's definitely a usable film. For the price of it, I would have a hard time recommending it because I just think that there's better film out there that people would much rather shoot. And I would say like, well, support Ilford, but this isn't really Ilford that's selling it. It's the offshoot of that. And honestly, I tried looking into it the other day because I was like, oh, I'll make a video describing like the Ilford thing. And I will at some point, but it is like, it's a lot. So this isn't Ilford, black and white Ilford. This is a different variation. It's not Harman either. Harman, at the very least, I'm not a big fan of the Phoenix stock, but they're trying something. They're making their own stuff. They're investing in themselves and they're gambling on themselves. This is a much safer bet for Ilford because Invisotech produces this exact film stock for other companies. So just, slapping your name on it, it's been proven to work in the past, so it should work here. I can respect that and I can understand that. It's not like, wow, I can't wait to spend $15 on this film again. It's just kind of like, okay, like these are the results I kind of expected to get. Not bad, not breathtaking. I'm not upset that I shot the film, but also I'm not like, wow, I'm like so stoked that I shot this. It's kind of the worst case scenario. You just feel left with like this, okay, cool, oatmeal. I guess, if you wake up and you make oatmeal in the morning and then you go about your day, you're not sitting at, your cubicle at work. You're not like on the drive back home just being like, oh man, can't wait to have another bowl of oatmeal. Like you're like, you don't think about it. It's just, it's a moot point. My grandpa, who's like in his 90s, would eat oatmeal. And he would have the, Mocha Mix. He had the Mocha Mix creamer. He'd pour like a little bit of that in it. He would have that in the morning sometimes. He would call it his mush. And then he would just go work in the garden in his 90s. Wouldn't be working in the garden and be like, man, that oatmeal was good. He'd just be like, man, do you want to have anything else for breakfast tomorrow? Like, it serves the purpose of film that you can shoot. For sure. But there's, I think, just better film stocks out there. Ilfo color. Part of this video was going to be like, what even is it? But I think that the cat's out of the bag. Okay. It's Invisotech film, Wolfen, NC400, NC500, and Lomo Metropolis. So if any of those 3 companies are ones you want to support. You like the film stock, take your pick, buy from them. Personally, I really like Wolfen's. I'm always going to support them. I just thought this would be kind of cool and obviously a little bit trendy. Definitely check out the other channel for the photo walk video with more of the photos I took. And like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate the support, and I will catch you guys on the next one.